All right, greetings everybody. Welcome to the Cross Purpose Report.
Hey,
So good to have you with me, Ashok, Benji. So this is the first of our report segment, and as we dive into it, I just want to welcome everybody who's joining in to listen to this podcast episode. We hope it's a blessing for all of you. So the Cross Purpose Report is essentially a segment of our podcast where we want to dedicate the time to going over news items, events that are happening around us, locally, culturally, within the state, within the nation, or even internationally. So we want to be able to take um, key news items, and address them from a Christian standpoint, to address them from a Christian worldview, a biblical worldview, so that we can discuss and see how should a Christian respond to this, how should they process this information, how does this help them, what should they do next. So it's all dedicated to our report of those news items. I think we wanted to do this. I mean, we've discussed about it from time to time here and there, but then I guess we got a lot of encouragement from a certain few friends, and so so
and
we
also we don't know anything.
yeah. So this is our first attempt at doing that. So so that's our agenda, and we want to get through as many of these items as possible. And to start off with, it's really very hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very hot. I hear about reports about heat stroke, caution, avoid going out into the sun. I think it was yesterday or day before we were going for lunch, and Google told us not to be out in the sun long.
Yeah. I got a notification, weather forecast saying high UV,
Yeah.
minimize sun exposure.
Yeah. And clearly it's because of climate change. And the reason why we have all this happening is because we don't pay enough green tax.
Green tax.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what they do right in USA.
Yeah.
That's
So-
why
so-
they're
so-
winter. Huh?
Because our notes are yellow.
I'm colorblind. That. Yeah. Probably they are.
Yeah, and climate change is going to destroy the world. We're all going to die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the next.
All right.
Yeah.
So, how should Christians view?
Wait. Are you going to put the sarcasm alert banner when you edit this video?
No,
Because
I think if so for people listening in, if you continue listening to our episodes, you'll get the hang of the sarcasm.
we hope.
We hope.
Yeah. As a rule of thumb, most of the things I say are sarcasm. But
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So it's very hot. Every year it keeps getting hotter. It keeps getting more difficult. And so there's this huge outcry of climate change and how it's affecting us and what we should do and how we should respond. So simple question: is climate change going to be the end of the world? Is this something Christians should be extremely concerned about?
Unless God decides to do that.
so,
So the most opinionated guy will start.
okay, I have an opinion on that. I don't think I am. That's just going down tangent. But yeah, the climate change issue. Well, just think of the narrative. Okay, so what is going to happen? How is climate change going to end the world? Are we going to have a worldwide flood when all the ice caps melt? So every time we look out and see a rainbow in the air, we don't get to see it a lot, but then if we do get to see it, that's God's promise to Noah, that there will not be a worldwide flood
Because
which
you're
will end
colorblind again.
all the 7 shades of grey. And that's God's promise that there won't be a worldwide flood. So that can't be it. So what can it be? You know what?
I'm just enjoying watching my wife trying to get past the camera without being noticed. It's really funny. I'll tell you what, you can go from the front without being noticed.
No, but it could be fire.
It could be fire. Okay, about that. So
Am I going to hell? I just made a pregnant lady crawl. Yeah.
It could be the end of the world. The kind of things happening in this room. So yeah. So climate change is secular end times theology, right? So we have premillennialism, postmillennialism, amillennialism, etc., which are different. I mean, not the best categories perhaps to talk about the end of the world theology, which is eschatology, but this is the secular version of end times theology. So this is how the world is going to end. This is how everything is going to come to an end, and yeah. So,
Very interesting, right? Because the more you take away the story from the Bible, you have to put in stuff to
Yeah.
fill in the void.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't go without it. That's the
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens in a lot of things, right? You take away God from the creation order, and right, and then you have unexplained stuff. It's because the aliens came and did it from where is the proof,
which is more
right?
believable.
Which is more believable somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, as a Christian, when I'm thinking about climate change, I don't have to think about it in the terms of the end of the world.
Yeah.
I don't have to think about it in the terms of, okay, this is it, everything is going to be destroyed, because it's not. Because um, the Lord holds the world up by the word of His power. The world is sustained by the power of God, not by the power of nature. And God is able to sustain through all circumstances, and He has a plan
Yeah.
of that day, of that time, of that hour. Only He knows, and He decides the times of the ages. However, as Christians, we are stewards of the world.
Yes.
We are stewards of nature.
Yeah.
We are stewards, and we are responsible for caring for. So, deforestation versus industrialization, both are God glorifying, in the sense that when we industrialize an area, we need more land, we cut trees. Those are necessary things that happen. So it doesn't make industrialization an evil because of deforestation and things like that. At the same time, we are stewards. So these are resources God's given us. We've got factories which are resources we've made, which God's given us through our mind, through our intellect that we've developed. And it's about balancing those resources
Yeah.
and understanding the harm of losing one over the other and being able to carry it together. So there is a stewardship to the whole thing.
Yeah. So again, the principle of Sabbath is that the Sabbath is for man and man not for Sabbath. Similarly, the world that God created is for the good disposal. So who inherits the earth according to Jesus in Matthew 5, the Sermon
Right.
on the Mount, right? The Beatitude says that the meek shall inherit the earth. So it
Right.
is for the people. So here you have been given this and you keep it well. You tend the garden like Adam was asked to do.
Right. So with all the heat that's happening, it's not the end of the world, but we want to always be stewards, and it's not always possible for us to there's no centralized organization of stewardship. Every person has to be faithful, responsible, obedient. So as far as that works, I think we should be compliant. As far as the small things that we can do that will aid and help and be good stewards of the nature, we need to do that. But the whole call or the whole propaganda of the climate change activists is it's just anti-reality, it's anti-gospel, it's it's coming from a worldview of fear that doesn't have to be there, and it's coming out of a fear because they don't trust in God. They ought to be trusting in God.
Yeah. So it's a narrative that would say you pay a lot of green tax, and this tax money would be used to put fuel in 50-60 planes, which the world leaders would burn up. I mean, not the plane, the fuel, to come and meet at a single place and make decisions there so that they can ask the people to use electric cars and not use fuel in their vehicles.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's all about stewardship. All right. So I need to buy an AC. Okay, that's good. That topic is good. So that goes from that to COVID spikes. We are again, locally here in India, Kerala, we are hearing about a lot of cases spiking. I know doctors in the family who have been talking about just cases spiking in hospitals and things like that.
Doctors in church.
Doctors in church. And some of us have been sick. we've not had COVID or we've not been tested for COVID, but we've come over that sickness. But so a lot of Christians are wondering again, what does it look like? Why is this coming on again and again and again? Some people are discouraged, some people are worried, some people are concerned.
Have their fingers ready on Romans 13.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because there's a certain degree, I mean, we've discussed about it. There's a certain degree of freedom that we exercised. We removed masks at a certain point. We stopped using it as, we came out of the COVID thing. But now that COVID's rising again, it seems like some of those precautions might be helpful, and we're waiting to see what it looks like. So as a Christian, what do I do? Give me at least 1 or 2 points of encouragement.
About COVID?
Yeah, about.
Right.
As a Christian, I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know, because we are yet to see science for this. Still,
Science or science?
science.
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 Okay.
So the last round of this ended with literally a lot of the people who were behind the mask mandates and the lockdowns and everything actually coming, the ones who were able to, allowed to, who were coming forward and saying, maybe we made a mistake. It seems like we jumped the gun. We took decisions too harshly. We had reasons for it. They were legitimate. We could not have done anything else in that moment. But in hindsight, it looks like, and in different scenarios, so each person would have done a different thing in their locality, and they would have had, like, for example, someone in US in some state imposed lockdown, and then later comes and says lockdown was not the right thing for us to do, or the mask mandates, or whatever it is. Right. So that's where this whole thing ended. Everyone knows how it started, so I'm not going to that. But now again, we are in that upward rise.
Yeah.
And so now it's again a question of, do we again repeat the cycle, or what is the actual,
Right.
who is going to tell us, because we don't know.
Right. I think so. It's in my mind, as I think about it, initially nobody knew, so everybody joined hands in taking precaution. As time progressed, there were consistently and repeatedly contradictory viewpoints that kept coming from time to time. And in some cases, people could argue there's propaganda involved, but in a lot of cases, people could argue as well that they were discovering things as they were happening.
Yeah. So there was no option.
There was no option. And filtering through all of that is perhaps something, from place to place you have to judge. I mean, we were all in support of John MacArthur when they decided to open their church at that point in time. And we rejoiced and praised God while meeting online wearing masks. And the reason was because we identified that location matters, situation matters, the particular place matters, and the church was giving statistics there about why they decided to meet and what they were doing and things like that. So all of that applies.
Which we don't have a lot of. So for us, it's more of uncertainty rather than,
Yeah.
certainly there is an issue. Rather, we are not certain at all. So then why don't we err on the side of caution?
So interestingly, as Benji was mentioning earlier, that if you remove God from something, they would have a form of theology there. For example, the end times theology would be climate change. Similarly, here what we have is, the COVID comes in, people have suddenly new infallible authorities. The Medical Association can never be wrong. The WHO can never be wrong.
Right.
So what we found out was that these are not infallible. WHO isn't, medical associations aren't, the Pope isn't, but that's for another episode. But
Steve's got to be in that. For that one.
all the ex-Catholics. But yeah, so at the end of the day, but what we have is infallible source in our hand, the
Right,
Bible.
the Bible,
Right?
yeah.
And what it says is that God is sovereign over all of this, and all things work together for the good of people who love
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I remember I was talking to one of the family doctors who was saying, technically, wearing a mask is a regular hospital function for many of the treatments and surgeries they do, because it prevents a lot of germs and infections from entering, and there are different grades of masks for different kind of environments. So she was saying how just wearing a mask had reduced the overall ENT patients for the year.
Oh,
There was a
okay.
drastic dip in ENT cases.
Okay.
COVID had its problems, but regular ENT problems were being
No,
solved.
but you also had the bunch of people who anything happens with any E or N or T
Was
they'll
COVID.
think it's COVID and stay
Yeah,
at home.
you're right. And yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stats. Even in the US, I remember there were a lot of deaths that could not be identified, could not be known what was happening, and the de facto was
Yeah, a
COVID.
bus ran you over, but you had COVID. Here is a COVID death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And the other way around also. Because you had COVID at some point and then you die of something else.
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think it's all happened this way because this was the first pandemic in the information age.
Mm. Yeah.
In this age of technology, this was the first pandemic, and there was a lot of fear, because there was a lot of information and opinions and thoughts and all these things, and fear plays a whole role, because I remember there was one case where a particular man was detained because he was driving his car without a mask, and it was enforced upon him that you have to have a mask in your car while you're driving alone, because you can catch COVID, which is you don't have any scientific basis, any medical basis. That's, for me, even more than any kind of propaganda, that's just fear talking. There was a panic, there was a fear.
And I think the police officers admitted to saying that we really do not know how this works, but then
Yeah.
oh, this is all we can do, or something
Right,
along those
so
lines.
because they were coming back and saying, look, even they don't have all the information, and they're getting multiple information. It was, let's do everything we can. But we've come to a point as a world, I think, where the so-called herd immunity and COVID, almost everybody's gotten COVID by now. We won't get into the vaccination dilemma, but the whole point being that COVID's on the rise again, and the same message rings true as it did since the beginning. God is sovereign. He is sovereign. He has a plan. We put our trust in Him. We take, again, whatever necessary precautions as you feel or deem necessary to protect yourself and your family. The Bible gives you the freedom to do that. And
Like you can't give 10 points on being sensible.
right, so you just do everything that would help you, and you pray, but don't be afraid. I think the one repeated command in scripture the most throughout the Bible is God saying, don't be afraid. Do not be afraid of COVID. Take necessary precautions, be sensible, be cautious, but know at the end of the day, God is sovereign, and for all we know, all of these problems will be resolved by 2024. So,
For all we know.
for all we know. All right. So, talking about doctors, I hear, Benji, you have a topic for us.
Yeah, talking about doctors. So this is one of the news that I came across, and it's like stuck in my mind. So this is a workshop that happened here in India. I think it was in Delhi, and a workshop of 70, 80 doctors coming together, big hospitals, big organizations coming together, and the agenda was to communicate to everyone or to teach everyone. It's a workshop, so they're teaching.
Of course.
They're teaching everyone that DNA of the child, if you are pregnant, if a woman is pregnant, the DNA of the child that you're carrying in the womb can be altered by I don't know, but by mind, thoughts, and uh, hopes,
Sugar,
I,
spice, everything nice. And,
I
yeah.
don't even know how to explain it. So I'll just read some of the points that they talk about, right? So they're going from the point of view of starting off by saying, so the problem statement is that children in India now, in these last few years, are becoming more criminal, more this, more that, bad points, taking the bad points, and also more of what do you call it, autism or
Right.
developmental issues,
Yeah.
all of these things, and they're taking these points, right, and saying it makes us wonder what is going wrong in the pregnancy, right? So there's something going wrong in the pregnancy, which is why at the end of pregnancy this is what's happening. So the tagline is this: the minute a couple thinks of having a baby, not when they have conceived,
Okay.
the minute the couple has thought of possibly having a baby, the role of Ayurveda comes into play.
Oh. Okay.
Right? So this is the tagline,
Okay.
right? And everything else is just coming out of that.
Yeah.
So there is the concept of womb cleansing. Do Gita Pat, which I guess is Bhagavad Gita reading, during pregnancy. They claimed that if this, and this is called Garbha Sanskar, if this was performed properly, even the DNA of the child can be modified in the womb. And they say physical health is of course important. Everyone is important about that. Everyone is bothered about that. But mental health, who is thinking of that, right? And they are talking about all those things and crime and all these things. And
Yeah.
the objective, right? So they say there is too much crime in the country. We see children murdering their parents, turning into rapists. Mothers will be happy if they give birth to children like Lord Ram, right? Who are duty bound towards parents and save the country too. This is the second agenda, or let's say, because initially in the news article they talk about we have to raise children that are what do you call, the child needs to be taught that the country is the priority, right? This is another one of the agenda, right? So that whole thing, right? So all of this is talking about when the child is in the womb, what do you do, right? In Ayurveda and Gita and all of these things.
So who's doing the workshop?
It's all doctors. It's heads of departments of big medical colleges. Uh, you could say world-renowned places, right?
Sure.
And that's the worst part of this, because now it gets worse, of course. So the members also touched on the LGBTQ topic and stated that gender expectations during pregnancy was the reason for homosexuality.
We wouldn't know. We don't have an MBBS or any
So
of those things. It's-
everyone be calm, we have solved it.
Yeah.
This is going to end soon. There's no more
Yes.
homosexuality coming. So are they homophobes? Are they progressive? I can't understand. So this is the explanation.
Yeah.
If the mother is expecting a girl child,
Yeah.
and gives birth,
Ayurveda should come in. Okay, go on.
yeah. If the mother is expecting a girl child and gives birth to a boy, that boy has a very high chance of becoming homosexual.
Okay.
This is the logic.
Can't beat science. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is covered in science by saying just one word: DNA will be changed.
DNA will be changed. Yeah.
There is no
What
science.
that is, how that is, and
But Mike, do you have a doctor's degree?
I know that's the thing, right?
That's the thing. That's Do we have that banner? We should print one.
All right. So maybe we should start with that. What qualifies us to address this issue?
Nothing. But yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize that reasonable debate and reasonable discussion and review does not require a degree. It requires study, it requires commitment, it requires common sense, but it does not require
Mm-hmm.
a degree. What we do when we study and we get certified and we get a degree and things like that is that, of course, there's a qualification that applies.
Yeah.
It enables us, it helps us do these things, but reasonable men and women are able to open up a report, read it, ask intelligent questions, get answers to intelligent questions, rationalize it,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to come to conclusions. Very interesting. When we had our first boy, Ethan, um, when we went for every procedure they needed to do on him, they had to explain to us what was happening so that we would give consent before they did anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the MBBS degree wasn't enough for them to do anything. They needed my consent.
Yeah.
And so that means that they believe that I can understand reasonably what they're trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
and the decision making is upon me to decide what I want to do with it. And so
So it's like saying, if you are eligible, so anyone can
Mm-hmm.
try to go for a medical degree, right? Whether you
Right.
succeed or not.
yeah,
So that in itself gives you the validation.
Yeah,
So
let's put it this way. A doctor who's very qualified, multiple I know MDs, or what do they get? Yeah, right? He has got some of those, and he's very qualified, very good at skill. And one day he is a genius, and he's an expert on the human body and all that. One day I find him with a butcher's knife in his hand, in front of a person, about to swing it towards him. I'm not going to go there and stand and think he is an expert. So, doctor, he knows what he is doing with
he
it.
knows exactly how to kill a guy.
Yeah. All the more reason to be. Yeah. So, you should see the worst kind of evil would come from the experts, because they would know how to exactly,
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's like saying Sherlock would be the worst criminal.
right. And
Yeah.
I think it's a matter of skill. All right. I think it's a matter of skill where if I have a cold, I don't run to the doctors to have a citizen. If I have a cold, I take a citizen. Why do I do that? Because, well, I know what to do with common cold. I don't need to go to a doctor. If it gets worse, then I don't have the skill required to treat this infection. So I'll go to somebody who is skilled. And doctors are people who have been trained and skilled in medicine so that they know how to deal and tackle with these kind of situations. It does not make them infallible. It does not make them the rule and authority that the moment that they say it alters DNA, I have MBBS. Christians don't believe them. Ask the questions, ask the tough questions.
The interesting thing here is that we used to do it also, because when the child is in the womb, we like to sing to the baby,
Right, right.
Read verses, and do all those kind of things, and we refrain from things that are emotionally
Right.
take a toll on the
Yeah.
mother. So we do those things, and we know and accept that there is an impact, right?
Of course.
But that impact is not
DNA altering. This is like creating mutants. That's the thing for me, right? There is scientific observation, there is scientific analysis, there is a scientific study, and then there is the scientific defenestration. Like you jumping off a building.
Okay.
So
no,
there
I
is
think it means throwing out of a window.
throwing out of a window probably. So what happens is, all right, we know that the child in the womb, this is a good case to fight against abortion also. But the child in the womb is being shaped. We know the child is being shaped physically. We know the child is being shaped emotionally. We know from scripture. We know that John the Baptist in the womb of Elizabeth leaped with joy when Mary came and Jesus was in the womb.
Yeah.
So we know they feel, we know they sense, we know they're living beings. We know they're created in the image of God. We know they're growing. They kick, we can sing to them, and we do all of these things, and we know there is an effect the outside world has to the child in the womb. Now that much has been substantiated. Then there is the defenestrating leap. Therefore, DNA is altered. Right? It's assumptive. It is not based on reality. It is.
I have a feeling this will stick. Scientific defenestration.
So I think the whole point that we face in all of these discussions is Christians need to have a good, sound understanding of what the Bible tells them. It's the best way to identify what's just foolishness as it is being propagated in the world. Homosexuality is a sin. Homosexuality is a sin. The Bible rejects it. The Bible condemns it. The Bible says homosexuals will go to hell. A true believer of God cannot be a homosexual. We know these are the truths of Scripture. But if you start with the premise that homosexuals are just like us and they have to be accepted just like us, and that's your premise, and then you are going to figure out how to justify it, that's not science anymore. Because you've already made false assumptions, you've already presumed wrongly, and then you travel down a path that tries to justify what you've already presupposed. And it does not work. The only thing that we can presuppose is the truth of God, which is given to us in the Word of God. That is why the Christians hold fast to Scripture. So it doesn't matter. They can be the top of medical colleges and the top of whatever they can be. At this point, they're just fools. And it's just foolish to be able to propagate these kind of things. And it's foolishness that a lot of people devour it. And so any tagline like that will cause them to be, to receive it blindly. And I think it's harmful, and I think it's dangerous.
Yeah. And the medical industry is like, you wonder what's next.
Right.
Because you're seeing something happening in the United States, right? And with the whole trans and all those
Castrating young children.
we were watching that documentary, What is a Woman?
My sermon tomorrow is going to be very interesting. My sermon title is Why a Man Should Marry a Woman and Have Children.
Okay.
All right.
So it's intentional. Why a man should marry a woman and have children.
So we can actually give a sermon on your title, like we exegete it.
Yeah. So that's the idea. So, but to go back to it, and I think the fundamental issue again here is that you cannot practice medical science without a Christian worldview. You cannot be a good doctor without a Christian worldview. A doctor that practices within an atheistic worldview is broken. He's not practicing from a sound worldview. It's not truth. It's not reality.
Yeah, not that he can't do great things.
Right.
But every time he does something great and makes a right, ethical, moral call, he's borrowing from the Scripture.
Yeah. He's acting inconsistently because he's borrowing from our worldview.
Yeah.
He cannot be a good doctor who actively practices good things without borrowing from the Christian worldview.
Yeah.
Because the Christian worldview is the truth of how the world looks. So this is a prime example of what happens.
It would be so we have to maybe qualify that because this one, like multiple agendas. One agenda is the country, one agenda is the LGBTQ, the other agenda is Hindu, Bhagavad Gita,
Right.
Lord Ram, and she insisted. So this is one line from the this thing. She insisted that women should pray like her. This is some example from I don't know, somewhere. Okay, so someone who had given birth to a leader. A mother is taken as an example and saying that the today's mothers should pray like that mother, pray to Hindu gods like that mother, so that they will give birth to rulers like that ruler. Right. So this would be no different if we had a Christian doctor saying you should pray to Jesus, so that you will, meaning
Right.
without any borderline signs, if the same thing was said by a Christian doctor,
Right.
and they're saying you should pray
Yeah.
to Jesus so that you will have children like, I don't know, John the Baptist or whatever.
Right. Right.
Um, right, that would be equally
Yeah.
um,
So
foolish. But
yeah.
then what is the
Right. So I think my answer would be as Christians, simple answer. I would ask someone who is carrying a child to pray to Jesus that the child is born healthy and will glorify Him and serve Him and be strong and will be bold. Not because what she says through her prayers is going to alter his DNA. That's
That's
the
the line.
difference. So I'm going to say no because Jesus is going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say because that's consistency with my worldview. This is inconsistency because they have nothing to go on. It's throwing darts in the air.
And there's no guarantee either. It's not
Yeah.
like your action is going to have this result.
Right.
You're praying to God and God does as He
Right.
wills. Right. There's
Right.
no.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it is God who knits together the child in the womb. Psalm 139 is a great place to go. So regardless of whatever the article is saying, it just doesn't have any base. It doesn't have any substance. And when you watch scientists, doctors, people qualified, high degrees, high levels of learning fall to such depravity in corrupting science, I think the reason is because they are working from a broken worldview, and it does not help them. It does not support them. So talking about doctors and homosexuals,
Yeah, so same thing is happening on the other end also here itself. So we are having these things just flowing in right now.
Right.
We are at that, we're just seeing the rising tide.
right?
So in the trans side, there was a news recently. It's maybe a couple of months. I don't know. It's been
Right.
happening.
Yeah, I
where-
remember it when you sent it initially.
Yeah. So there's lots of trans stuff happening in the state. I'm pretty sure. But we don't get much. I don't get much of the news. Just this one news item somehow made its way through to me. But it is a proper one of the big news channels talking about a trans couple where the husband is a woman and the wife is a man, I believe.
Yes.
That's how you have to say it.
Huh. Okay.
Right?
Yes, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Hashtag science.
So basically, there's a guy who became transitioned to a woman, and there's a woman who transitioned to a man, and they got married. I don't know. It's it's post transition that they got married.
Married.
Yeah, fine. They are a
Married
couple.
with a question mark and
They are
asterisk.
a couple. They're together. And the husband, who was a woman before they could remove the womb, the uterus, got pregnant.
Yeah.
I need a whiteboard.
Flow chart.
So yes, order of events is like that. So the news is coming to us like the guy,
Okay.
the woman, I don't know how to do this.
Okay, wait. Let me just get that right. So, there was a woman that transitioned into a man, and she is pretending to be the husband now because she did the transition.
Yes.
But when
But they
did-
don't care. That label doesn't mean anything to them
right. But when they did the transitioning, they didn't remove the uterus.
yet. Yeah.
So
The series of operations are happening.
right. So she was able to get pregnant. She was able to get pregnant, but now she is the husband, or playing the role of the husband.
So men can get pregnant.
So suddenly men can get pregnant. So my question, so basically, when the man transitioned into the woman, he didn't cut it off.
See, I did not.
We only read the articles. It's just
Journalism is very easy for me because I just go online, it's all there.
So at the point of procreation, they switched roles
Stop.
to have a baby.
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
This is-
Stop.
And they
Stop.
switched back.
Yeah. So,
Like exegesis. Not
I
right.
can't get it.
see, this is groundbreaking stuff. A person with XX chromosomes.
Groundbreaking, like when Cora was devoured.
No. For the first time in history, a person with XX chromosomes and uterus gave birth.
Pretending to be a man.
She was pregnant at that. She was pregnant at the time.
She.
He,
Okay.
she.
All right.
And that's how the news came. And so the point is not that this is happening. We assume that it's always been happening for a while now. But the point is that this was mainstream news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And celebrated. Right.
Right.
Yes.
It
Yes.
was-
If you don't, you're a bigot. Right.
yeah. So that's the angle that the article is, at least not openly, but
Yeah.
doubting.
Don't Christians know that the Bible is transphobic?
No.
It's
Mostly not. Yeah.
it's very interesting to me. So so I remember watching the video and some of these clips, and
I can prophesy a comment underneath the video. What about the eunuch?
Right.
Yes.
but I wasn't outraged. I was just saddened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about getting all
Once I stop laughing.
It
Yeah.
is a pitiable state for humanity. To
This is
be
Romans
in.
1.
This is Romans 1. This
What
is
it looks
Romans
like.
1. The bad part of Romans 1.
Yeah,
Not Paul going to encourage them.
yeah.
But yeah.
And it's just so it is sad that the world has come to a place where it's very simple, folks. God created them male and female, man and woman, and that's the reality of creation. There are two genders, there are two sexes, and every
And both are the same? I mean, as in sexes and genders, not
Right,
that
yeah,
not
yeah.
that male and female are the same.
We're not dividing sex and
Let's not
gender.
get into
Yes.
And I think it's important for us to recognize that we live in a broken world, broken by the sin of man, and because of the brokenness of the world, there are many kinds of anomalies. Even though we can quote percentages which are very less, there are things such as intersex or these kind of anomalies, men born with weaker masculine parts or reproductive parts, or other traits of the opposite sex and things like that. We see them as anomalies, and people who are born this way need help, need support, need prayers, need encouragement. But at the end of the day, no one born as a man can ever give birth to a child. It's very clear. The male and female distinctions are very clear upon birth. Every doctor will be able to look at every one of these cases and be able to say that this child is a boy or this child is a girl.
Yeah. Or that meme that we talk about, right? 500 years later, nobody is going to dig your bones out of the grave, and nobody is going to look at it. No scientist is going to look at it and say, looks like a Z/Z.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's just not going to
Yeah.
happen. Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. So we need to understand that as Christians, the Bible is very clear on these subjects. And this is what the enemy wants to corrupt. Because the most important fundamental unit of civilization is the nuclear family. And the corruption of the nuclear family happens by attacking the masculinity of the man, the femininity of the woman, and by killing children. That's where the attack happens. And as long as the devil is able to prevail there,
Yeah.
he is corrupting the world.
So he, by giving the idea to men that they can be women, and women the idea that they can be men, he makes androgynous people
Yeah.
who are neither. right? And everything human beings do is completely attached to their gender.
Right.
What God has called men to do and what God has called women to do has everything to do with gender. The
Right.
second you lose it, you become practically useless.
Yeah. So I know we can keep laboring on this subject, and maybe we should do more podcasts on this, especially on masculinity, femininity, and it's a subject I think we will keep going back to again and again. But before we close, I just want to quickly address two more subjects. I mean, two more points of news. One is, Benji, you have an invitation for us?
Yeah, I would highly recommend us to attend
Sarcasm banner.
attend this seminar training workshop that's happening. Not to be confused with the workshop that I spoke about just now.
Yeah.
This is another workshop. This is a Christian workshop.
But not less ridiculous.
Not gotten there yet. So it's called. The title is Divine Healing Technician Training.
Okay.
I'll say that again. Divine Healing Technician Training Program. It's on 1st and 2nd and 3rd 3-day program happening in Cochin. So you only have to pay for food, and there are a bunch of people coming from a couple of ministries.
For people listening outside, Benji showed double quotes because
Victor's International Ministries and John G. Lake Ministries.
yeah. Do they have to pay for the food also? Can't they like take 5 loaves and
No,
2
no,
fishes
so
and
no,
split
you-
it for everyone?
It's divine healing.
Yeah, it's
sorry,
divine,
no food
heal-
cooking technicians or
Can't
anything
heal
like
hunger.
that.
Divine Healing Technician Training.
Yeah.
And the trainer is Dr. Mekala Selvin.
Mm-hmm.
And the John G. Lake, I guess, is Pastor Dr. Jacob Matthew and Pastor Shanti Jacob.
So I'm sorry.
Yes. All right. So, for all our dear and beloved Reformed cessationist brothers and sisters, this is why they just hate the charismatic world.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, we hate it just as much as you do.
Yes.
This is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
This is just like I keep thinking, if you go and stand on the cessationist boat shows and you look on this side, how horrible it must be looking,
Yeah.
And it's just, this is just,
No, I want to go just to know what is happening. Divine Healing Technician.
Are there doctors in there? You said doctors.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're all
three,
doctors.
two of them are doctors.
Divine Healing Technician Training.
So it's like all the last 3 topics that we picked up. There's other than the attack on the family, there's an attack on science.
There's an attack on science.
It's an attack. All
On
of it is an
reality.
attack of reality and truth.
On reality, yeah.
Right? Starting with Pastor
people always
Shanti.
People always
Yeah.
see Christianity and science at odds, and like the hyper secular atheist people. So it's like Christianity was the origin of science. Science is the prodigal son that left and started to
You're right.
this
Right.
thing,
Yeah,
and now science is in trouble. We need to go and save it.
So,
Prodigal son went to the other and then came back saying there are too many drag queens there. And now it wants to be back.
right. So for you Christians listening to this, Divine Healing Technician Training, now that's a title that should make your flags go up,
Yeah.
right? And that's something you need to immediately.
You
be
need
cautious.
flags.
Yeah, it's yeah. So don't go for it.
That's the right tagline for all that's happening right now. Is that you need flags.
You need flags.
So we got two things: scientific defenestration and you need flags.
You need flags. Hashtag, yeah.
That can be the title. All right. So and going from this, just looking at what the charismatic world looks like. I mean, this is not the way to do it. I'm curious to know what's happening. So if
Which charismatic world?
this charismatic,
This charismatic world.
this charismatic world,
Pastor
or the most
Shanti's
popular
charismatic world
world.
looks like this.
Yeah, and so I just but going from that, we've got one more topic on the same subject, which we have Michael Todd. That you're taking that, right?
Yeah. So, continuing on the series of unfortunate events, we now have Pastor Mike Todd, which is as ridiculous as Pastor Shanti, I think.
Right now, at the moment, yeah.
At the moment, yes. So Mike Todd is a quote unquote pastor of, you remember the church name? Transformation Church.
Yeah.
Right? Transformation Church. It's an American church and a quote unquote church. Probably, I don't know. Could be. No, you've no idea. So they had what they called an Easter service. Right? And many of the news articles had this heading: blasphemous and disgusting. Pastor Mike taught Transformation Church Easter service sparks outrage online. So we were curious. Why would there be a
I have
outrage?
to say, ever since he got his glasses, he's like grandfather looking.
It's a D.A. Carson look. Hey, so we checked it up, and you know what we had to say: blasphemous and disgusting.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous because there was.
It wasn't a service. It was a
wasn't
play.
service.
It was a drama.
Play. It was an award show night kind of a thing. A
Right.
lot of performances. Re- I mean, indecent speech on the pulpit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
And they
sorts
took
of things.
secular songs, tried to change its words, put on a good, ridiculous show.
Yeah, I think there's no way to communicate it without people actually seeing the thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
YouTube
I mean,
copyright.
Yeah. So,
Probably
so
the first one, yeah.
Todd Friel, the good Todd, not the Mike Todd.
Are you the good mic?
Yeah, so the good Mike is talking about the good Todd. So Todd Friel put it aptly, I thought, where he said that the only reason you have to make a drama out of Easter is if you believed that the actual story wasn't good enough.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh. The quote unquote Jesus during the play was a girl.
Princess.
A princess. Right?
Yeah, she was wearing a gown.
Yeah. What do you make?
Maybe it was. Okay, no, I can't say.
I think we should do an entire episode on false teachers and talk about who are false teachers, who are false prophets, because I think that's a genuine Christian struggle, because we are technically charismatics. We are people who believe that the gifts of the Holy Spirit continue to exist and can be exercised in the life of the church. But we're definitely not this, right? And
Very few people are this.
That's also true.
right, this.
Or is it?
I don't know, actually.
I mean, maybe they're
Yeah.
just rich enough to broadcast it.
No.
out there. I mean,
I think the difficulty is to understand the difference between being deceived and being a deceiver, right? So you can have pastors, teachers across the spectrum of denominations, across the range, who are wrong about things. And sometimes they are wrong in such a way that it's a severe wrong, but they are genuinely wrong about it, deceived about it, blind about it.
Yeah.
At which point the quote false teacher prophet doesn't necessarily apply in its full strength. We have to identify whether we treat them as Christians
Yeah.
who are genuinely wrong, or do we really treat them as deceivers?
Yeah.
Now, if any Christian were to tell me, looking at Mike Todd, and I've seen a couple of videos of what they've done, and I've tried to research about what they teach, what they do, how they do things. If they look at that and say he's genuinely deceived, I would call them naive, because this looks like a deceiver. This looks like a program and a plan to deceive. And I do agree that there's just so much of this nonsense that in our culture, if we take our Christian culture, it's predominantly charismatic, right? Even if you look at traditional churches, they all believe in the continuity of the gifts. They don't necessarily have the practice of the gifts, but they believe in the continuity of the gifts.
They don't, at least they don't believe that it stopped.
Right. At least they don't believe that it has stopped. And so there is a sense in which they pursue these things in different degrees. But there's just not a solid practice of these things that's popular. And so there's a lot of contortions of truth. So to answer your question, I think that that's the spectrum between genuinely deceived from being healthier to just utterly dead, in faith and in practice.
Key point is that we ourselves have all gone through those phases where we were under
under different one of
Different
those,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we've journeyed out. I don't, given any situation, I think, given any practice of the so-called spiritual things, our flags will go up much quicker than the cessations, because we've come out from so many of those unhealthy places. But these are kind of things I think Christians should be wary about. Just like you don't look at an MBBS doctor and say he knows everything, I'll trust whatever he says, DNA can change.
Yeah.
You don't look at the word pastor and go, they know everything. I mean, this is the way you grab people. Divine healing technician training. It sounds intelligent, it sounds scientific, it sounds professional, it sounds powerful. Surely these guys know what they're talking about.
Two
And if,
doctors.
yeah, and it's two doctors. And if you are people who are desperate enough for healing, this is the harm, because they're trying to get that crowd of people that really need help, who will run for this.
No, but that's probably different, because the healing ministries are different. This is
yeah,
a workshop
so-
for the people who want to do those.
Who want to do
So,
it.
so this would be like, first the churches create a market for it,
Right.
where you're special, where you're gifted if you have healing,
Right.
right? How do you know you're saved? How do you know you're called and anointed? Because you're able to heal.
Right.
That's what is first being fed into people.
Right.
And then the seminar comes in, hey, I want to be that. I want to be trained that way. How does somebody become an AC technician? He goes to AC technician school. So how do I become a divine healer? I go to divine
The
healing
church.
technician school.
You go to the church. You want to be a Christian? You go to the church.
Yeah.
You want to be discipled, disciplined, taught, trained, equipped, and you want to be a sound Christian, you want to be a sound minister, you want to be faithful, go to a healthy local church, Redemption Hill. Trivandrum. Give us a call. We'd love to have you.
Come to our healthy church.
But plug into the church, and it's just so sad that these kind of things continue to happen. And watching what I've seen in Mike Todd, even him preaching on Jesus healing the blind man, and he depicts that by making a man become a prop on stage. He spits into his hand and actually wipes it across his eyes. It was gross, it was horrible.
What does it achieve?
It achieves
Shock and awe.
and clicks on YouTube. Like, you gain popularity like anything, and
I wonder if it's a power move as well. I can do this and get away with it, kind of a thing.
but I think fundamentally this is what I feel it is. This world of Christianity, quote, with this world of Christianity is falsely believing that God does all things that he does for their sake. Where man is the center of all that God has done. Whereas the Bible teaches us that God is the center of all that he does. In a man-centered view, you create a culture where you satisfy all your desires. So people of this generation, this individualistic age, non-believers, all of them are looking to be attracted by something that serves them, rather than go someplace that calls them to serve God. And when they see these kind of things, that's exactly what they see. Such freedom to do all that they want to do, that allows them to do all that they want to do without any consequence.
Yeah.
It's a man-centered view, and it is the destruction of the man-centered view that we are seeing, and we really need to make an end of it. So we are over time, and we covered a lot of topics. I think all the topics we wanted to cover mainly. But thank you guys for sitting with me. I hope we can do more of this and bring more news items, talk about this. Some of these subjects I think we should turn into podcasts and just deal with them, go through the Bible, through those issues, and help people. But the idea of the cross-purpose report is to take these news items, address them, give the biblical opinion, give the biblical context, leave it with the people, and then encourage them to keep following and listening in as we address them one by one. So thank you guys for joining me. So this is the Cross Purpose signing out, and if you want to write to us, you can write to us at thexpurpose@gmail.com. Visit our website as thecrosspurpose.com and write to us. We'd love to hear from you. Give us your feedback, your questions, even this news report. If you have questions, if you have doubts, and you want to let us know, please let us know. You can write in the comments below or email us, and we will take the effort as we can to address those things. But God bless you all. God bless you guys. Thank you for
Yeah, and if you're
listening.
sharing this video somewhere, use the hashtag you need flags, and make sure you tag Shashi Tharoor and ask him what scientific defenestration means.